Welcome to our next adventure with Chemology 411, a podcast about anything and everything. Kim and her guests will take you behind the scenes, behind the story, or behind the bar. So sit back. Make sure your seatbelt is fastened, tray table in its upright position, all carry-ons stored under the seats. But for this adventure, electronic devices must remain on, as we are ready to take off on our next adventure. Introducing Kim Schultz and Chemology 411.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 38. It's been such a long time since we've recorded an episode. This episode, we're going to kind of get into the CARES Act. We've talked about it in the past. We're going to kind of update a little bit about it. I am Kim Schultz, and I'm your adventure coordinator for this show. Let's say hi to my co-host, Tyson Harley.
You stole my thunder, because I was going to joke about how long or short of time it had been since we recorded an
I gave you a break. You got a 10-minute break.
Right, yeah.
And that,
now
like,
get back to work.
by law.
Now get back to work. So, yes, we knew that if you listen to the last episode, well, Kimmy needs to go get some away from Kansas time. So we're going ahead and recording 2 in a row. Got 2 different subjects going on. So pretty excited about it.
All right. So go ahead. This is all
what?
you.
What?
You're slacking.
Tyson's Quick Hits. Quick hit number 1. So this is interesting. A friend of mine apparently had some kind of a situation medically. I mean, he did not tell me. Guys don't ask, right? And then he's like, well, I got permission, and he works at a public-facing place, retail, and he got permission to wear a kilt at work. I'm like, dude, you're going to get so many women are going to be like, can he help me?
Yeah, exactly.
I never understood it, but it's totally true.
Yeah.
Women love the kilts. I don't get it.
Do you have a kilt?
No.
Okay, add it to your list. You're going to what was it about when we were going to do the dating thing? You're going to you leave the window open
forgot.
or something.
The
music or what was it? You were going to in front of your window. You were going to put something to women be like, oh man, he's flowers or something. I don't remember.
Something
you'd
that
have to go back and listen
gave
to the other.
The illusion that I was
that you were
especially
really
eligible or something.
Yeah.
Oh. This is us on the big screen near the front window.
Yes.
With a Kleenex.
With a Kleenex crying. I love this show. As all the joggers walk by, look at him. He's so caring.
Knock, knock, knock. I couldn't help but notice.
And then show up in your kilt.
And then they're
Boom.
Like, so what about so-and-so on This Is Us? I'm like, huh? I mean,
that's my favorite one. That's my favorite one.
That wasn't the one, but that fits. So I should get a kilt, huh? So there's also a family story about another person I know. They were visiting from little old small town Missouri, my family, and a buddy I know will just dress eccentrically, and he was wearing, I'm going to call it a mini skirt kilt.
Ooh,
I mean, it had
sexy.
And they saw it, and I still don't hear the end of it. I'm like, oh, your friend so-and-so, huh? Just your friend. I'm like, well, first of all, we just saw him out in town. So, yeah, just my friend.
Just my friend.
But even better, he had a shirt that he had cut up the bottom from about his rib cage down into frills, where he just made little slices.
Yes.
You know, so it was pretty awesome. And he was at a former downtown business called The Merchant, I believe.
Oh, gotcha, yes.
And we were down, and so anyway, I still hear the story about I'm like, it wasn't a dress. I said, it's a kilt. It's like, that wasn't no kilt, that was a dress. Anyway, that's pretty funny. All right, so quick hit number 2.
Speaking of love.
Oh, yeah. So, a little follow-up on previous episodes.
So
I've gone to the birds. And I have an update on Robin, if you remember from an episode. I mentioned...
How is that relationship going?
So,
Did you ever train yet?
A couple episodes ago, I opened up for once. Kim cracked up for like a minute straight. Anyway, no, I said that we were talking about, I don't know, connections with animals or something. Or maybe
I was talking about my rabbit in the backyard.
And I said I had a robin. And the robin seemed to really, like, be paying attention to me. And so
we could see them running through the fields together, slow motion. Robin flying over his head. Laughing and frolicking.
You know where you hold each other's hands and you go ring around the you go ring around the rosy. So anyway, I opened up for once and talked about this robin seeming like it was paying attention to me. Like maybe it wanted to like hang out as opposed to just
Tyson
chase
was
off.
gonna have a friend.
So I was being like, I said something like, well, what if I just sat on the front porch? I kind of want to like see if the robin would come near me and be like, hey, robin. So anyway, I still think that robin is like interested.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, I think that robin's like, hey, human.
Hey,
How you doing, human? I'm like, hey, man. Hey, man. I got to do that because I don't know its name.
Right.
I'm like, hey,
and it's not
man.
called Robin because that'd be like, dude, I'm not Robin.
That's stereotypical.
Yeah, it's like,
you're not going to call him Robin or
mean,
her Robin. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Robin's a name for both.
So
girl,
sometimes I'll be walking from the car to the front door, and I'll be like, hey, I think that's that Robin. Hey, buddy. And I'll just kind of like, look, I'm not being jumpy or anything.
I'm just kidding.
How you doing? You just stand there for a while, or it could just be a different bird. I don't know. All right, Tyson, quick hit number 3. Okay, so back in this is gonna crack you up too. I'm gonna open up again so you can crack up again. Back in undergrad, I'm talking 20 years ago. I had an idea because I've told you I was a mass communication major, and we're supposed to put together a proposal. One of the classes was about TV specifically, as opposed to just radio or whatever, or general writing and stuff like that. So one of the proposals was, what is your idea on a good TV channel that hasn't been done? So I came up with the whole alien like font where it's black and it kind of has that greenish glow. I made a logo and everything, and I called it ConNet. And that stood for Conspiracy Network, which I thought would be a great, just general, and they kind of do that now, like History Channel.
Yeah, there's channels.
So anyway, I've always been interested in the idea because it's always at least intriguing stories. But I do want to tell you that in the current situation where everything's gone conspiracy, I used to say everything's gone politics. Everything is politics, and the bigger the government is, more powerful, the more scope of government is, then the larger politics is in your scope of life. If you're just left to your own devices, an island of people and there's no real government, then politics maybe isn't as important at least in those terms. But politics is bigger and bigger, and as a result, so are conspiracies. Well, one of the big subjects right now is George Floyd conspiracies.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want you to know that I have looked into a lot of them because I'm interested in them. And honestly, even for me, Kim, I'm not really convinced on much of anything.
Right.
Now, I haven't put to bed any of it. Well, some of the facts I put to bed. And the only one I'm definitely big on right now is still, did they at least use it as an opportunity for division? Not that the original thing was fake or anything like that. But I'll tell you, I am not offended by possibilities of any of this stuff because I believe in some of the things that have happened in the past. So if anybody even marches towards that idea, I'm like, I consider it. I'm not going to be offended by you saying strange things could happen. But I just want you to know, I've looked into the conspiracies of George Floyd, at least to this point, and haven't found anything that I'm very convinced by. One good one that really I'm like, no way, dude. They're doing it right in our faces. Anyway, so this one's funny because a friend of mine who knows I would be open to it, not be all peeved about it. It's like, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? And one is that it's at a rally of some type, and people are wearing Third Ward, George Floyd's from the Third Ward in Houston.
Right.
And you can see that obviously some kind of a spokesperson is there for a particular reason, and he's probably the speaker. He's in the suit. And there are a bunch of people around, and next to this guy is a tall black man with a very wide nose. Just a characteristic. I'm not
Right.
That's one of the things you know from George, is he had a wide nose and his eyes look very similar. And he's got a mask on, and he's got a hat on. It says Third Ward. They're waving it right in our faces.
It's right there. He's not dead. He's alive.
He's at the demonstration of his own death. And so it's like, well, that's interesting. And eventually, I'm like, a few days later, I look. And if you've looked at that at all, it's really not hard. You just have to look a little bit before you share. You know how I said, don't press share?
Yeah,
don't press share. Just look a little bit first.
Right.
And if somebody says it, say, that's great, I'm not going to share it, maybe I'll look into it. So it turns out that it's been all over ESPN. Anybody who's been watching ESPN would actually already know this. There's an NBA player named Steven Jackson. He played for my Spurs teams back in the day and was on the second championship winning team that they had in 2003. And he's from Houston, and George was 6'6". And Steven Jackson is a skinny, lanky, avatar body, black man who's NBA. He's 6'8", 6'7", 6'9". He grew up around George Floyd. They knew each other, and he's got the wide nose.
Right.
And in fact, they call, this is not me. Don't even try you think we'll look alike? Oh, no. I'm telling you, because this is the next part. Steven says, when I would go back to Houston, because he didn't play on the Rockets teams, he played on other teams. One of the first people I would call up is George, because we played each other in basketball back in the day. They grew up they didn't go to the same school, but they knew of each other because they played basketball.
Right.
So he would go visit George, and they called each other twins growing up. Right. So, just so you know, I mean, that's how much they look similar, especially when you don't see the whole face.
You see like a third of their face.
Because here was the other thing. That's right. I forgot about this. So a guy that looks suspiciously like George Floyd, also a tall black man, has that wide nose, but he has a mask on. So like, see what they're doing?
They're just hiding it.
He's got a hat on, and he's got sunglasses on. Oh. And you're like, what?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly him. I can tell by the nose. Is that what people say?
That's why he's wearing glasses.
No,
so you at least have to piece it together. Steven Jackson, man. So I have looked at some of the conspiracies, and so far, no dice outside of me thinking that maybe they're using it as an opportunity to help us stay a little bit divided. All right. That's the end of Tyson's Quick Hits.
Actually, it's not, because I need to hear about your introverted Gage Park goose.
Oh, I did not finish. Oh! Ow, my eye! Okay, so...
I was waiting, because this is a good one. I was like, he missed it.
Okay, yeah, so we've got the robin, and I've also gone to the birds otherwise. So there's a certain place I go at our local park, and you know they're introverted geese. So like a lot of them, you go out to like your local lake or something, wherever geese hang out.
Right, exactly.
And most of them are like, "Come on, guys,
yeah, let's go.
Let's go." What? Well, once in a while, I noticed at the lake too. There'll be one that's just like, you guys talk too much or something. I'm going to be over here, and you'll see one that's just out away from the group. Well, the same thing for our local park that's in the city. There are geese over by the little pond area and some other areas. One day I go to a place where I go to shoot baskets just for exercise. I stink at all things sports if a defender can be in front of me. If it's just like something I can do by myself, like bowling or throwing frisbee, I'm pretty good at it. I'm fairly coordinated. But put any defender in front of me and forget it. I might as well be handicapped. So anyway, but I go there for exercise, and I pull up, and I'm like, there's a goose just right like in the parking lot. I'm concerned enough that I'm like, is this goose okay? This is a warm day. What's this goose doing over here? It's like, come on, goose. And I'm also worried the goose is going to, like, not move quick enough if another car comes in. So I'm like, come on, goose. Come on, goose. So anyway, the thing is, that's this goose's area, it turns out.
Oh.
Yeah, because I've gone back there more than once since then, at least twice, maybe 3 times. And each time, that goose is in that one little area. But I'd like to think maybe it's just because it saw me, and it was... it's a certain connection, and it was hoping for a lost connection, like on Craigslist. That's the real end of Tyson's Quick Hits.
You think maybe the goose can smell Robin on you? Gotcha there.
I got
you
nothing.
guys, it's getting late. Well, remember we just did an episode on our ghosts, and I was doing a Zoom call, and I'm sitting downstairs, and I start hearing music upstairs, and so I thought, well, my phone's upstairs, so somebody must be calling me because I've got all different kind of music on my phone. So I'm talking to people, but I'm still hearing this music upstairs, and I'm like, you guys, I got to go upstairs. I don't know what's going on. And I go into my kitchen, and my Echo Dot is playing a song, the Tomorrow song from West Side Story. It's on.
So now, for those of us who don't do smart homes,
okay,
usually the commands are to the local.
You have to say the name of it, and then you have to tell it what to do.
And it's usually local. Like, that's nothing that would have operated on down. If it would have operated down here,
I have one
off
down
something
here.
You said, it would have answered down
Correct.
here.
It would, yeah. So if I would have said the A word, I'm not going to because I have one because it'll talk.
Okay, yeah.
If I would have said it down here, if somebody would have said it in the conversation, the one right over here by my desk would have responded, but the one in the kitchen is. So what I figured...
But it requires a command.
It requires...
Plus some
you have to say something to it. So, of course, I shut it off, and I figured that Gertrude must have come back out after we woke her up, or she's like, "Oh, she missed me because they talked about me. Maybe she listens. Maybe she listens to the podcast up in heaven. I don't know."
Former resident here in this very house. So that was my ghost,
and I thought maybe she's smart and she just figured out she needed a little bit of music to soothe her or something. I mean, it was my music that I normally play, but it's really always
West Side Story,
yeah, it was
which
West
is
Side
an
Story.
older.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like it's. Oh, I'm just saying it's not a '90s song. It's not an '80s song.
And it was like
60s,
tonight. And I was like this, what the hell is going on? Now I've had they've malfunctioned before, but how? I don't understand. Like, so someone has to be in here like, Echo, play show tunes. And I just can't hear it. And it's like, playing show tunes.
So, I think I may have interrupted you. Did you say you did something and then something else happened too? Or did a second thing happen?
No. I just shut it off and I came back down. And my friends at Slash and Bash, we do a horror film festival. They're like, "So what was it, Kim?" I go, "Oh, just my ghost wanting to dance, I guess."
It was a Zoom call.
With my horror festival that I do.
Good.
So anyway, we had that. My bus trips are back up and hopefully going to get ready.
But can we remind people that was a pretty fun episode?
That was a good one.
And the good thing is, if you're a few episodes back, of course, now if you're listening to this, maybe you skipped it, and then
people listen to them all.
Okay, well. If you happen to pick up this one, we'd had some pretty heavy ones because the whole tone's been heavy, and that helped get us away from. I mean, they were still fun. I mean, we always have fun elements, but that one was a lot of fun. So go check out the Ghost episode.
So anyway, I do bus trips every year, and it was really weird because I honestly, like, things that happen to me are crazy. And so last year we got to go see Hamilton, and we saw another show, Anastasia, and then I did to Branson, Missouri. I actually did a bus trip down there.
I remember that.
And so that was in November, and so all my friends were like, "What are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do now?" And I looked at the shows and I was like, I don't know. I'm going to wait and I'm going to see what the next schedule is, and I'm going to wait. And then the virus hits. And so I don't have a bus trip to cancel. I don't have to refund any money. I mean, it was just weird how that worked because I should have already had it planned, but something just told me, like, just wait. So I found out that Wicked is coming back next June, and so we're going to go see Wicked.
Where?
At Music Hall. We're going to do a bus trip down to Wicked. And
Kansas City? Or okay.
Yeah, it's just Kansas City. And then I have another one, I don't know what the name of it is, like in March. I'm going to try to do that one as well. And then we're going to do this year, I am working on to go back down to Branson. So it's opening up in the middle of June. And so I'm looking to go probably the 1st of November, take a bus trip down there. And everybody's like, we're ready to go on your bus trip, Kim.
Weekend?
Yeah, it's a weekend. We'll leave Friday morning this time, and we'll come back Sunday night.
And is in November when you went last year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we do shopping, we go see a couple shows. What I really want to do is leave Friday morning so we can do a show Friday night and Saturday night, and then have all day Saturday to shop, and then we go shopping at the outlet mall on Sunday, then we just come home. So I'm going to start planning that again. So I'm pretty excited. And people are calling me saying, when are the bus trips going to come back? I mean, people are ready to do stuff. So by the time hopefully November gets here, we'll be able to get on a bus and not have to social distance
Yeah, because right now we have people at I told you I work in the public sector, and people will commute from Kansas City. And today I was talking to one of my good friends who's been telecommuting this whole time, as opposed to coming in even part days, and he usually takes a van, and we are discussing that, like, ain't nobody ready to take the commuter van together yet, so we'll see how even that long takes, and maybe that'll be an indicator of how long the buses take.
Right.
I hope you're right. I mean, fingers crossed, and knock on wood.
But you can get on a bus and sit each by the window, and I just fill half the bus, and people pay a little bit more money, and I only take 24 people with me instead of I'm only going to take 40 people, and there's 54 seats on the bus. And I'm going to price it down to where it's smaller, so it's not going to be a jam-packed bus, and we're in your own hotel rooms. So,
right.
Anyway, the other day we were talking, and I made a post, and it was kind of funny because we had to cancel our big concert this year. It was our very first one. It was in the end of June. It was the Heartland Stampede. We had it here last year, but it rained the whole weekend, and it's a big country concert, and they canceled it, and I was supposed to work at it, and so I went into one of my little pages of people that like me. You have to listen to the last episode when people did not like me last week or this week. But, and I posted in there, I said, you know why? Why don't we just go get a protest permit and then just go there and protest old country versus new country music? And then just happen to have a concert and just do a 2-day protest.
Context for those of you listening in the future, of course, this was in the middle of COVID, but at least toward the end of it, so social distancing. However, we have had protests recently over the George Floyd situation because 2020 has been insane. And so that's the context of that I think a very smart observation on Kim's part.
But you can only have, if in a social setting, you can only have 15 people, but for protests, you can have 100.
This is literally one of the guidelines recently.
Guideline.
I can't remember if it's a Kansas one, but it's definitely...
It was just a guideline. Yeah. We had like 500 to 600 at our protest.
Oh, I mean,
it was a lot.
I mean, the Saturday one, I was thinking a good 1,000.
Kansas City was like 2,000 to 3,000. Like, it's thousands of people doing this. So you've got all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was kind of cute. I was like, well, I mean, everything just, hey guys, my friend said, I'm thinking about having a party June 30th, just because, for any of you people who, whatever. And I was like, get your protest permit. That way we can have more than 15 people. And he started laughing.
I do like the idea of old country versus new country.
Yeah.
You know what? You could bring in the Phelpses too, just to add a little bit of...
I'm sure they would come.
Authenticity.
I mean, it'd make it legit.
Wait a second. No, give me a new... Oh, this would be good. Can you name off super quickly a new country type artist? I know. So the Phelps come in and they have one of their famous iconic style signs, and it says, "God hates Rascal Flatts."
Right. And you're like, we love Rascal Flatts. I think they broke up. Bring back Rascal Flatts.
Right.
Yeah. I I thought it was a cute idea.
So anytime you just need to have, okay, guys, between you and me, 5% of us just need to be walking around this perimeter at any given time.
With a little sign.
You'll take 15-minute shifts.
Let's walk around. Exactly. And then I sent you a link, and I'm going to put the link in with the podcast. It was, I think it's Breon Brown.
I think it's probably
Brene Brown. Yeah, something Brene Brown.
But
she had the little thing on. I put the thing in there just so we would see. And she actually did a video on empathy versus sympathy. And
you said it's pretty short. I just had a hard time watching it.
It was just 2 minutes. Yeah, it's just 2 minutes. It's a little cartoon thing. And it really, if you go back to our episode of empathy, the empath, it was so good. Like in 2 minutes. And I was going to play it during here, but that's going to take a lot of work and I got to go on vacation. So I'm not going to probably get that done because it's only 2 minutes. But I will put the link in there, and I just wanted people to see that. I also put it in Chemology 411.
So you think it was a nice supplement to the type of things we talked about?
It was exactly because remember I said I have empathy, but I don't have sympathy.
Yeah.
And it's empathy versus sympathy, and empathy basically, so empathy is when someone falls down. An empathetic person is going to say, "How can I help you? That's bad. Oh, okay. Please tell me." Oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. Just to make it simple. And a sympathetic person would be like, hey, so what's going on? Oh, that's bad. Well, at least you did this. And they're going to try to one-up it or try to make them feel better. And sympathetic is that an empathy finds a connection where sympathy kind of pushes it out. Well, you think that's bad? But at least you have this, or at least you have that, or your car broke down. Well, you know what? At least you have a second car.
So you said you're empathetic,
I'm empathetic,
but you're not,
I'm not
sympathetic.
I try. It's really hard for me to be sympathetic.
You're kind of left-brained in that way, and in that you go, listen, I do have a connection and I do care. However, this is what you need to do. Let's be realistic about things.
Well,
or rather, at least you don't just take that as an opportunity to. I don't try to just kind of glaze over the problems. It down,
right? I delve into it and I take it personally. I don't just look at it like poor you. I feel really sorry for you, but at least you have this, or at least you have this. I don't do that. I listen to it. So anyway, I put that in there. I want you guys to listen to it. All right. So our main topic, a long time ago, we've had a couple different things, and we've talked about what I did. It's gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. I crossed my thing out because I'm doing this and my interview with her, she's sick. So I don't have it.
Okay.
So.
Just a little bit of behind the scenes. I thought she was going to include an element that she didn't. Sorry about that.
So he was pointing. Yeah, that's fine. So anyway, we have the CARES Act, which has been huge going forward, and it changes about every day, and it's absolutely just
trillions and
trillions of dollars. But there's different parts of it, and so I kind of wanted to go over it. First of all, I have to say, and I've already said this, that I was totally wrong on how they were going to do it. My way would have been a much better way, and it made sense, but they didn't do that. They did
which part? The
$600. They just added $600 to all the unemployment, and
at first you're like, that can't be right. There's a very good reason you thought it couldn't be right, because
it's stupid.
Because you make I did some research on this just so I would be kind of versed. At best, about 50% of your former pay. Right. And so if you're somebody who's kind of entry level and making 10 or 11, you're only getting like $5 of unemployment.
an hour.
$5 an hour. So it does make sense that at first that would be flabbergasting to someone who's informed.
Correct.
Because $600 a week is not just coincidentally, I don't think, equals $15 an hour.
It is not a coincidence.
$15 an hour extra.
And I thought it would put you up to your normal salary. So if you were making $5,
maybe it would
would max it out. You would make your $10. You would get your full check.
It would whichever was less. You thought, okay, well, if 15 brings you up to 100%, then you're at 100%.
You're
If
at
only
100%.
$6 of the 15 brings you up to 100%.
But you can make up to, so you're making, it was $50,000 a year. So at $50,000 a year, you made $488 a week. Okay. So at that point, if you made $50,000 a year, you would actually make your hourly wage, because they would add that $15 an hour onto the $488 hourly wage,
right,
and it would bring you up a little bit. Or if you make $10 an hour and you're only getting $5 an hour, that $600 would compensate and put you back up to $10 an hour. So at least you're making the right amount of money.
So,
no. We
Yeah,
can't be that
so,
smart. We're just going to freaking throw money at people.
So instead of just going maxing you up to 100%,
Just give them extra
or maybe
money.
15 doesn't max some people up to 100%, but it's still the, they still get the full 15, even
plus
though
their half of their salary.
So maybe they're not quite making much, but it's either 100% or it's what your unemployment was plus a whole $15 an hour.
Right.
It's not that. Instead, it's everybody.
Not everybody. No.
Well,
not
everybody who gets unemployment.
Everybody that gets unemployment. So the poor person that's making $10 an hour that has to go to work is still making $10 an hour, and their coworker that got let off is now making $15 an hour and not working, which makes no flipping sense to me whatsoever.
Well, 15 plus the 5.
Well, no, that was $10 an hour. It was a $10 an hour, and on unemployment they get the 5.
Right.
And so they would make $20 an hour, $20 an hour. So they make $20 an hour, as opposed to this person who's working making $10 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of idiot would even think that was even intelligent?
I would answer what kind of an idiot, but we don't want to be partisan here.
Right, we're not. I'm sorry, but what they did with this CARES Act, in my mind, is that they just threw money at people, and they're just like, we don't know what to do. And I know that people go with Democrat, Republican, and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not even...
That was a partisan issue. So even though I said it may or may not have come from a certain partisanship when I made that little jab, both parties agreed on it.
Reality, yes.
And quickly.
Yes,
and quickly.
And it has changed and changed and changed. So the big thing was that there's multiple levels and people don't really understand. So let's see here. You've got the PUA.
Yep, go ahead.
And it provides 39 weeks of benefits to qualified individuals who are otherwise able to work and available to work within the means of applicable state law, except that they're unemployed, partially unemployed, or unable to or unavailable to work due to COVID-related reasons as defined by the CARES Act. Now, let me tell you about this partially unemployed. You could still be working and still go get that $600, which, what? Okay, that's
Is that retro? Is it part of the 15?
It goes back. It goes all the way retro back.
Is it...
Depending on how many hours you work. And I don't know how many hours it is. You can't be working, but you could still have a job and still get money. Okay? Yeah. So let's just keep paying people. Let's just give more people money.
Up to 39 came from the fact that as a part of this, they extended plus 13 weeks. So up to 39 meant some states go 26 weeks.
Right. And this goes all the way back to like February. Like it started at February. The 39 week starts at like February or something like that. So it's not like... It's just not a total. There's a time period that they have.
So some states go a full half a year. That's 26 weeks. Plus the federal government added the 13 weeks.
Right.
I'm a little confused as to whether that also therefore mandated that the state also put in their portion for the last 13 weeks.
Well, they were saying that I think it is, but I believe that they said, and the employers don't have to pay for that, which is a lie, because the employers are the only ones that put money in the state fund. So that just means our unemployment probably is going to go up later. So now we have the FPUA, which the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which is for the business owners who are self-employed. Well, they're just now getting paid because our computer system in the state of Kansas didn't work. But they didn't tell people that, no, you have to submit your Schedule C. And if you don't make the right amount of money on your business, you're SOL. You don't qualify. But yeah,
so what does that mean? So you're talking, I understood this FPUA. Remember, the first thing is called PUA, which adds a $15 an hour, and that's regular unemployment.
Yeah.
I understood FPUA to, you're right, small business owners potentially, but also gig workers and contract.
Right, they're all contract.
Workers.
Well, yeah, they're all.
So
they're
usually those people who can't or not as easily get unemployment.
They cannot.
So this extended that to folks who, well, shoot, I can't do my DJ gig if there's no events.
Correct.
So go ahead with that.
So they did that. But it wasn't like, hey, I'm a DJ, give me $600. It was, hey, I'm a DJ, submit your tax return so that we can actually see the amount of money that you make. And if you don't make the right amount of money, you're not getting a dime. Like, you're not getting money. So a lot of small businesses lose money. They lose money because they have like a home office. So they're deducting their phone and their electricity and their water, which they're still paying when they're not DJing. And then they also have to deduct off their mileage, which is, depending on which year, could be up to like 50 cents a mile because maybe they travel around. So they deduct all of that off there. They have expenses that they do, but they're looking at their income. So I can't figure how that even works out yet. And then how would you even know, like, if does everybody with the Schedule C, because is that going to be your person that does Avon and Mary Kay and they make like $3,000 a year? So how does that work? They're going to get $600 if they just, even though, like, if they're just a stay-at-home mom and it's just like a side job.
The record evidence is there's a pitfall with the type of evidence you have to show.
You got to submit all this information. You got to submit it. Why? Why am I submitting all this information? Well, because
in one sense, I mean, to me, it almost comes down to, because remember, the unemployment can be, hey, you've got the reason for unavailability, and you'll see that the federal government said, states, you need to be flexible as far as this whole, are you available to work? And you have to actually allow that availability to work be, if somebody is not available to work because of COVID, either they have it,
right,
they can't leave the house because of the kid situation or whatever. So they tell them to be flexible. And then in this case, it's, maybe they're not being as flexible in how they show it. You'd think the gig people could also just say, obviously, I can't do gigs right now.
Right. Well, but everybody could say that, but what kind of a gig person are you? How much money do you really make at this gig?
So in other words, how full-time was it?
Yeah, like, well, even if it, like, so what if your husband is the breadwinner and you over here have your little, I make little wreaths for that, like people. So I've got a little wreath business, or I've got a little, I make candles. And so my whole income, I might make, $80 a month, profit, and all of a sudden I'm going to get $600. So and I don't know this because not everybody's getting their money yet, but they're submitting your tax return. So you have to show them your tax return in your Schedule C, and then it's going to go off of that, whether you're going to see, like, you're going to be unemployed or not.
Then the tax return, so much of having a this type of business are those write-offs that come off of what?
Right. You get so many write-offs.
It's before AGI, before adjusted gross income. So you're saying in order to get it, potentially, you would almost have to take off some of these
well, like you would think that they would
deductions?
They would say that, but now we're going to move over to the PPP thing, because this will explain a little bit. It's the same thing.
And very quickly, the FPUA also, it's up to the 39 weeks, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we've got the Paycheck Protection Plan, which came into play, and there was multiple levels, and I believe there's still actually money in it, because everybody that I know that filed for it got it. And I was very disappointed on some of the banks that my people went to that didn't get it, because they were basically told, oh, you don't qualify. And I was like, you do qualify, but I don't do those kind of loans. So some of them didn't get it because they didn't follow it further. But everybody got it.
It's like they got a bad answer. It's like, you may qualify. This is just not the place to do it. So we don't know anything about it.
Yeah, they didn't push them anyplace else.
This is the idea that you get what is initially, just bear with me on this, because according to what I kind of brushed up on last night, you get what's initially a loan. However, if you use it properly, it turns into a grant.
Correct.
And 75% of it, it has to go towards a payroll, And then the other 25% can go towards things like utilities and overhead.
Oh, that's so old. You're so outdated.
Okay, well, possibly. And anyway, it was supposed to be through. You're supposed to finish it, and it was supposed to be initially that you had to
You had 8 weeks.
use this money in the proper ratio in the 8 weeks for it to turn into, if you will, a grant.
Correct.
But obviously, we went longer than 8 weeks. So what's the update?
So
I set you up there accidentally.
Yeah, exactly, accidentally. so a lot of the people had businesses that the states were still keeping closed, but they were getting this PPP money, and so I had told them all, take the money, because at some point the government has to realize that all these people, they're literally being told you cannot open. So why would they take payroll money and just waste it when they need it to when they reopen? And so, not knowing when they did the first round and the second round of this, they had no clue what we were going to go through. They had no clue what was going to happen to these businesses. And so what they decided to do, and I don't know if it goes on, if each part, but I do know that the latest came out on one of my loans, came out that it's now 60-40. So you can actually pay 40% of overhead, rent, and utilities, and that's it, which allows you, and then there's an extended period, but you still have 8 weeks, but then you actually have 12 weeks. And so they've kind of moved in, and it's very complicated. So I have these papers, and I'll start filling all of the Schedule A worksheets out for the businesses to get the payroll part in there. That did the first round, because this week ended the first round. So the first round is over. And then the second
first round of
money. They did the money, they ran out, and then they brought in more money. But a lot of these people...
Just a quick aside from the libertarian. It's all bankster money. We don't have it. No. And that's the type of decision-making background we have to understand with this. When you go, is this convenient for somebody? That all of a sudden it is convenient for somebody. It's the bankers getting to create all these loans, and they don't have the money to begin with. So can you imagine? I think I'll go along with the idea that we can't open yet. I mean, can you imagine the type of economic and propagandistic pressure that people like the bankers would put? No, we don't need to open yet. Got to be careful. So that the government, in its idiotically irresponsible way, will borrow more hundreds of billions of dollars.
Trillions.
And even trillions. And guess what? I mean, the interest payments now every month are hundreds of billions of dollars that are not going towards services.
Well, we all know that the money comes from someplace, but I have to say that this money is going to keep some businesses afloat. Because we still need them in our economy. However, the money is going to come from the businesses and the people, the taxes. It's got to come from somebody. So prices are going to go up. But I have to say that from what I have seen, the ones that were that needed it for those weeks that they were really closed down and they were working and keeping their employees paid to do the job, they didn't have enough money to they wouldn't have had enough money to make the payroll, but they did have enough money to pay the bills. So
no, wait a second. Did they have to be? So they had to. Okay, they couldn't reserve it for payroll. They had to pay the people at the time.
Yes.
And the other thing is, I would believe that there are other conditions like, therefore those employees, or at least part of the motivation is, therefore those employees really are connected still to that employment, so that when things do open back up, you're not having to look for new people.
Right. So here's
round one. How long was round one?
8 weeks.
How long was round one broke before they decided let's add some more funding? Okay.
It was like boom, because everybody did it. I mean, we had people ready, the banks were ready, and the money was there and all that stuff. But now let's go into that money needing to be spent and the problems that we have.
Well, but the other thing, too, is you said 12 weeks. That only gives us another month. Now the new one is another 12 weeks starting from whenever they get it?
They have 12 weeks. So the new one is like 3 weeks later.
Is it retro to a certain day, or is it whenever they finally get their loan?
I don't know.
Because remember, even though people could get that loan, it was retroactive to a certain date and went through July 31st.
It was the day it was deposited in your account.
Oh, for some reason I thought I had a 7/31 date in my head.
There are multiple levels about different things, but the bank will say you can try this, but it might not work. But we prefer you to do the day it's in the bank, and then it's by days. So you have so many days that you have to spend.
Which is
money.
Better. So now this one is 12 weeks from whenever they get it?
We've got a longer period of time, but I think we have until November on some of them. So your industry has to be opened, and then I think you have it.
So they've already built in the idea of,
that some people aren't even open until the middle of June. They've had the money for 4 or 5 weeks. But they don't have this. They can't spend it because there's no job to do it. So they want to make sure they have the money. But let's go to
and let me go back to a nuance real quick then. How did you pay the first round if you were not able? So they extended the original ones?
I have no clue. I think so. I think they did because the people that I'm doing right now that's the first round, and they were the ones that sent me the thing that said it's been extended. It's 40 to 60. Okay. It's got 12 weeks, and so I'm actually extending. I'm extending out those 8 weeks to 12 weeks right now.
For a second, I took that as you're supposed to pay them for not working. But that's not really true.
No,
that's not true.
No.
It's just you will pay these people, and you have a certain amount to use this to pay these people for it to be a grant for a period of time. Okay, for a second, I'm like, well, but even so, you need to. The reason for this is so that those people know they're going to be paid. And you have to therefore, because I read something like you have to keep a certain percentage of your employees or something related to that. You couldn't just overturn to new employees or something.
Well, the thing, I mean, like,
or maybe it was just your payroll couldn't go down.
It was. You had to keep the people. You couldn't lay people off like this and there's so many rules, and I'm not even going to get into all that stuff.
The rules go towards stability.
They changed.
Trying to keep stability.
It was basically in these brainiacs when they came up with this idea of trying to get people off of unemployment faster. But what they did was they screwed everybody in the business world because they're paying these $10 an hour people $20 an hour on unemployment. So they're getting up to like $800, $900 a week. And they've never had that kind of money. So these businesses want to open up, but they don't have enough customers because people are still too scared to go into them.
So question for you. What if you're going, okay, I plan on employing Joe and Susie and Ted because that's the deal. I got a payroll protection plan, right? Paycheck protection plan. But then cannot Joe and Susie and Ted, this probably works in unemployment. Can they go, by the way, I'm looking elsewhere, see I wouldn't want to be ya?
Because when the employer goes back to their employee, and this is supposed to be the legal way, is when I say, Tyson, we're opening back up, and you say no, you have now turned down a job. But if, like you said, if your kids are still at home and you're the daycare person or there's a reason, you can still get the $600, but the unemployment, I would think, would have to go away. It's very complicated.
Well,
here's the big problem.
I don't think it would go away because we just said it has to be related to COVID. So if they said we want to bring you back.
That's the PUA. That's not unemployment. That's two things. the PUA is not unemployment. Unemployment is the $5 of the $10. That's your Kansas unemployment. The $600 has the rules with it. Your unemployment, I don't know, every state would have different rules of what the state changed, and I wouldn't know what the state changed. This is federal money versus state money. So, but here's the problem. If you don't keep your record straight and you're collecting all this money, and then the employer says, I tried to get Tyson to come back, and we fill out a form that says Tyson refused to come back to work, you could pay money back. Like they'll just give you all the money, but they will take that back. You could possibly have to pay some of that money back.
I still think it's possible that I could just be going, well, I've still got a situation. Now, I could be lying.
Right, but if it's not true, you will pay it back, because it is the law that when you file for unemployment, it'll say, have you been offered a job? And you say no, and I said yes, and you have now broke the law. The unemployment will take your money away in a heartbeat.
And the timing would be fishy, and they should be able to tell that.
Well, I mean, you can tell that like, I mean, we can fill out forms. And I don't know who's filling it out, because a lot of the people were like, nobody wants to come back to work because of this $900 a week or $800 and some dollars a week that they're getting, because they're making more money here, and we don't even have enough business to bring them back to pay all of our staff anyway. So why are we going to open up full? I'd rather wait and open up. And the money's supposed to be over in July. That $600 or whatever, I think it goes through July. To get all that stuff.
That's where I got that 731 then.
So I mean, the legal way, that's not how it is. But nobody thought about that when they just threw money at people. And now we've got these small businesses, they will not survive. And I put on Facebook the other day, you know what? You really just need to go back to work. If you're going to pick a temporary paycheck for 5 or 6 weeks, remember that we're going to lose so many jobs, and there's not going to be a job there for you. And someone the other day goes, oh, there will be plenty of jobs. How do you figure when you don't even understand that a lot of the stores, a lot of the corporations are going to close? Do you know how much money like Kohl's and Target and stuff lost because people weren't shopping? Even if they were open and people were like, that's not fair, they still did not do the same amount of sales.
Yeah, that's why I said the fractional reduction is what in a normal year would be disastrous. So when you say, hey, we're back to 70, if you got a year over year that's minus 30, you're having a disastrous year.
Right.
If you got a year over year that's minus 20%, still disastrous. And if you're even minus 10 or minus 15, that has people freaking out at corporate going, do we keep that location open?
Right. I mean, they're going to be gone. And it's not today. It's going to be later on. I mean, restaurants that had drive-thrus and stuff like that, a lot of them, but they still are not up to a lot of them are not up to their norm. I mean, like even McDonald's, those are franchise owners, but you can only sit in a line to go through the drive-thru for so long, and their inside crowd is just as much.
And that's
so
why
you still lost a huge percent of your money.
Yeah, and I'm a broken record on this, but it's for a reason. Until leadership gives a proclamation instead of defending how great masks work, you're going to have a traffic problem. Okay, so if governors are saying, well, yeah, it's open, but boy, those masks sure are a great idea. Yeah. I hear you. Wear a mask, but leadership should be saying, guys, I trust you. Open up entirely. Those of you at risk, wear a mask if you need to. We're past this. We'll look at it again if it is seasonal in the fall, and if it is what do they call it? Novel. Because usually when these things mutate a little, they're not novel. That's the whole reason why one coronavirus previously usually gives a lot of natural immunity to the next one. They're just slightly different.
Right.
So your natural immunity protects you from the specific thing and related things. So usually you're not going to get a novel that's followed by a novel, which means what the leadership should be saying if you want the businesses to stay open, is not, oh, those masks sure are a great idea for the next 6 months. It should be, wear your mask if you're at risk, but we feel comfortable. We're now in the seasonal, we've hit the seasonal apex. This is going down. Go about your business. We'll tell you if it gets worse later. We'll be on the lookout.
Right.
Because, man, if you're saying that, you're going to get 70 and 80 and 85 and 75 and 65% of business, and it's not going to support these businesses.
It's not. And
it becomes a pride thing, which makes me so mad, is what I said the very first moment when we decided in March that it was definitely going to be bad enough to cancel school for the rest of the year.
We're done. And shut everything down. And what really makes me mad is we're going to sit down for 2 weeks and we're going to watch the curve and we're going to, and it was 64 days. So we've got a huge problem going on. So the bigger problem is that now we don't have, in the state of Kansas, they had that eviction thing that was on there, so you couldn't evict people. Well, now you've got these small businesses that have leases and rents and stuff like that, and the other businesses that get those leases and rents are going to want that money, and they haven't paid it, and a lot of them didn't get the Paycheck Protection Program.
Until we get that proclamation or close to 100%, and even once officially we go, guys, go about your business. It's okay.
You still got to make it up.
Somebody has to drop their pride, but there's still going to be a delay for people, and especially older people, for good reason,
right,
to come back who would have otherwise been all over on the Saturday mornings at McDonald's or wherever.
Right.
They're cafe places where they're retired, and every single day they spend $5 to $10 at a certain place.
Exactly.
They're not coming back soon. And they're not probably even going to come back until you specifically proclaim it, most of them.
But they won't proclaim it because what if it backfires, and then our media will blame them for it. So they're sitting back and they're taking the scared way out. So instead of worrying about, and this is another thing that really makes me mad, is we have these business owners that I'm protecting and I'm trying to stick up for. And in my comment, listen to last episode, one of the people said, I can't believe you're putting money over people's lives. Do you not understand that people don't live without money?
They don't live just on happiness alone.
Possible way.
And in fact, without money, guess what you don't have? It's real hard to be happy if you're not meeting your bills.
You have absolutely nothing.
And your legacy is disappearing in front of you. So
you can only go get your free food for so freaking long. You have no house, no car. You're probably going to lose your kids. You have no money. This is how bad it is.
When does this FPUA, when's it going to be long enough? Because at some point they're going to say, well, you've had enough time. And even though, I know we've kind of gone off on the side issue, but it's because it's relevant. They're going to go, listen, you've had more freedom now. In the meantime, they're going, yeah, but I'm still got only 65% of my freaking business.
Right.
So I don't, to your point, I can't afford well, I guess because they extended it so much longer, you should eventually be able to hit the 75%. Maybe instead
60% now.
60%. You should be able to hit the 60%.
Yeah,
because, well, the grant's really only good enough for so long, but you have, as far as how many months that would take you, but you have much longer than that to use it.
Right.
So even if you're half-staffed or two-thirds staffed, that probably helps, but it's still... It's people just aren't understanding. They're so worried about, and you know what? Be worried, but then just stay home if you're that worried. If you have underlying causes and stuff like that and you don't believe it, I am at the grocery store and I see plenty older people with no mask on walking around because, as many of them have told me, because I talk to almost everybody, I have lived a life of joy and happiness, and I refuse to live in fear of an illness. One lady said, I've lived through multiple different things like this, and this never happened before. I don't understand what's going on. Now, we've got the nursing homes closed down. We've got people dying in nursing homes. Who do you think's going to die faster?
because they can't see their family. When they start feeling the loneliness and they start feeling their dementia, they don't understand why nobody is seeing them, because you can't explain to them that
similar.
Your family can't be there.
It's similar to the give up syndrome when you lose a spouse.
It is, exactly.
Or because you've gone, as I've said before, my father, it turns out the day before he died, he'd said something to the extent of, I don't want to have to go through another one of these, procedures, and that was almost like just a step back of your will.
Right.
And when your will drops in that regard, whether it's because you're not seeing your loved ones anymore, or you seemed especially lonely for 6 weeks, it is in effect, let alone that whole, scandal thing about allowing COVID patients back into nursing homes. And I guess Michigan did that too. I read something recently about that. We had some New York did it, and a couple other states had problems with it. And so did Michigan, where they stupidly did not adjust the policy. And in fact, in Michigan, allegedly, they're like, hey, we'll pay you to take some of these COVID patients. But they didn't really do any pre-scouting to ensure that the procedures that the particular nursing homes were taking were proper precautionary procedures.
Right.
So they put the incentive in front of them with the dollars, but did not go scout beforehand. Probably because half the state offices at the time weren't employed,
right?
And so they weren't. And then even if they weren't supposed to visit. Because
right.
gosh forbid you go check the safety of the nursing home, but let's give them incentive so they take the COVID patients.
Well, and like when my dad was sick, if my mom would have walked up there and they would have said, you can't come in, my mom would have said, it's going to take a lot more than you to keep me out from my husband. Right. So get him in a wheelchair and bring him out here. And my dad would have died at home. That's would have been my mom, which I'm just surprised that there's not more people like that. My mom would not sit back. And she was 60 years old when my dad died, because he was 63. But if she couldn't go into hospice, into a man's room who's literally going to die,
dying anyway,
and she couldn't be with him, she would have rolled up and she would have said, get him out here now. She would have went and got the police.
They do that for hospice too. They put the restrictions on hospice, because hospice already means you're near end of life, right?
But there are people that work there. Like, there's people that work there, and some people go out of hospital. Like, they go in and then they go. I mean, there's just different. I don't think it's anything like that you can visit any of them. But as for a nursing home, that's where they wanted to put my dad. My dad would have been at home. He would not have been there. My mom would have fought and fought and fought and fought and would have done anything she needed to get him. And I think what happened was it kind of threw off some people. They thought it's only going to be 2 weeks, like it's going to be okay.
Right.
And now they're being told you'll never see your loved one again, because until there's a vaccine, then your loved one's going to be in there. So,
and I'm not being anti-vax, but one group of the population that can be worried about you're kind of bringing in a disease. That's what the vaccine is that hopefully you don't have much of a reaction, are people who are very weak.
Right.
They're the ones who could.
Yeah. What vaccine are you going to give it to them?
You give a vaccine to
someone
85-year-old.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong. I
don't know.
But underneath, I know there are certain,
especially if they have underlying illnesses already, like if they're already ill. I don't know how that works. But reality is that we still are in a crazy time, and we were talking about the all the money that has been thrown at this. And I mean, there's billions of dollars being thrown. I heard that the Indians, the tribes. So there was actually a part of it. I heard today that there was like millions or billions of dollars that were set aside for the reservations, but that some of them now are suing the federal government because they didn't set up a way of distributing it correctly. So some of them didn't get enough and some got more. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't understand.
I'm shaking my head over here just so.
Reality is that, you know what? It's great if you're out there and you just think you're making lots of money on this, but we're all going to pay it back. It's all going to get paid back.
Well, but here's the thing. Paid back, and like I said, back to the bankster issue, when you add money to the money supply in a massive fashion, Well, there's still only so much economic activity going on. And even in the U.S., where our money goes all the way around the globe, it makes the existing money worth less. And so you are paying an inflation tax. Your money that you earn properly has now decreased in value.
And you're all going to pay a lot of taxes at the end of the year. And I wouldn't be surprised if all of your glorious credits for the low-income people kind of disappear. I know that the $2,000 child credit, it has an expiration date because it used to be $500. Or $1,000. Maybe it's $1,000. But I can guarantee you that when they start looking at the budgets and they start looking at it, they're going to be like, yeah, we got to get rid of all that stuff.
I think states, because they have to actually hold to true finances, I don't expect the federal government, as long as, even though we're in total fantasy land finances with, a $1.5 to $2 trillion debt every year off a $3 trillion budget, we're now going to be like a $4 trillion debt, if I had to just guess off the top of my head, off 1 year. So at this point, we're now just going to say we're never, ever, not only are we not ever going to balance the budget, we're dropping all facades that we ever had any even inclination to do anything except continue to borrow massive amounts of money.
Right.
Because if you're that far, I just don't see them ever, tying back up shop, because whenever I've talked about it, even $500 billion or only $500 billion, people act like you're trying to cut programs. It's like, you know what? The bankster interest already cuts programs. We have to get a hold of it.
They have absolutely no clue what's going. Like, you're going to lose. It's just going to be big, and it's not going to be now.
It's another one of those where you had your what did you call it? Was it last episode where you called it? You were vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I said, all my posts are vulnerability posts, but not for that reason, because I just say it, and if people are going to believe it or not. But it does still drive me crazy when people go, you're not compassionate. You want these programs to shut down. I'm like, dude, your interest payments are hundreds of billions of dollars that are going into the government and not going out to people for services. So how is that compassionate? Now, let alone when you're going to just increase that by who knows how much. I don't see us going back to even close to a balanced budget, which means we will have even more hundreds of billions just in interest payments that are not going. And for an idea of scale, and I'll finish my aside, state budgets are only in the range of about 10 to 20 billion for states that are kind of middle of pack. So when you're having hundreds of billions in interest payments, then that is, to give you some scale of how much of that money that's not going towards services, state annual budgets are only in the 10 to $20 billion range.
Right.
And it's so when you're not using that money because you banked or borrowed it, and now all these interests, that's not being compassionate.
Well, what's not compassionate is to totally ignore small business. That's my biggest thing is every time I bring up a business, people throw it in my face that I can't believe you're putting money before a life. But money is with a life, and I'm not trying to kill anybody here. I'm trying to save families from losing everything.
Income distribution. What's one of the big causes that people talk about? Unequal income distribution. Well, you don't think when things like entrepreneurs have to close down and small businesses close down that income distribution gets worse? Of course it does.
Well, and the thing is you haven't felt it yet, but you will feel it because you're still working your job, you're still paying your bills, you're still living the life, because everything right now is in that shift. When everything opens back up, and everybody has to start, because I've noticed that the prices have gone up, and I'm talking $2 to $3 per meal. I think my McDonald's the other day, after my night out, I have to have a fish sandwich. It's the only thing that for a hangover.
Let's go to the drive-thru. Was it one of those?
No, it was in the morning. It's my lunch the next day. I have to have it. But anyway, it was like $8 for a fry and a fish sandwich. It's normally like $5.99
usually
for a drink, and you get a drink with it. Now it was like
how much?
$8. So people aren't going to see it because it's going to creep.
Well, the other thing is, to your point, where even these corporate ones that have they survived because they had drive-thrus and stuff. They're going to be like, we got to make some of that money back up.
So you're making $50,000 a year in 2019, and you're making $50,000 a year in 2020 with a value of $40,000 a year, because everything is going to go up. You just got a pay cut.
Yep, a big one.
And a lot of these people that are, that are on the unemployment, someone the other day told me, people aren't just going to go back to work and make that little bit of money. They're going to know how it feels to make this money, and they're going to reevaluate their value. I was like, they're really going to go to a business who hasn't been open for 2 months
and be like, you know what? You owe me $17
to give them 200% raise and give them $20 an hour instead of their $9 an hour or their $10 an hour. You think that they're going to just double everything and go, come on back. You're right, because we have absolutely no money, and we're going to break the same amount of money before, but we're going to double what you make.
Yeah, we're going to make less money.
Because your value is so much more than it was before.
We're going to make less money for a while, but let's go ahead and give you twice as much.
More. So I was like, I don't understand that. So that $600 was a little scam of getting people to see that value so they can go out and pick it. And who makes more money off of that $600? The government, because you pay more Social Security and Medicare. They're going to get more taxes on it, and that's what they're trying to make these small businesses use their profits to give them more tax dollars. It's going to happen. People are not feeling it now, but you will feel it, and it will be a slow feel.
One thing you said either this episode or last episode was that everybody's going to give it the college try. So it's not, businesses are not going to close down in a month or in July or in August. I mean, some of them might, but the biggest concern is January next year, February next year, where people have tried to survive for 5 or 6 months,
and they have 2 months of rent that they're trying to catch up on, and they're paying it, and they're struggling. And then we get into the winter months, which some businesses slow down because depending on if you have a lot of snow or ice or what the winter portrays, they're going to hit that thing, and they're just about to go back up. Some of them have gone and went and got loans, so they're going to be paying on loans.
Speaking of
some people have gone and got second mortgages on their houses because they need to keep track of it. And we have absolutely no clue. I've got a lot of businesses that were like, man, I was so busy in March and April, but like in the construction and stuff like that, like they're like May, I got nothing. And now it's starting to pick up a little bit. But once again, people are getting it done now because later they're not going to have the money. Another thing that people have money for is you were able to go cash out your 401k without the 10% penalty. Are you kidding me? You just took your retirement out to survive now. And you're going to go and you're going to do a lot of that's going to happen. So now their entire future is gone because they had to go get the money. But remember,
you're thinking about money.
I know. I'm a horrible person. I hate the fact that I don't want people to become homeless and lose their life and their dream.
What does homeless have to do with money, Kim? I don't understand. Sorry. See, this is why I didn't get into your comments, because I would have been blasting people and stuff like that.
So, I mean, people just don't get it. And so I wanted to kind of catch up on this kind of stuff. It really riles me up because I think you should have compassion for everybody. And I believe that reaction versus being reactive versus being proactive is wrong. And I've been saying this since March when someone told me, you shouldn't be talking about the jobs and the businesses. We need to worry about that later. And I was like, okay, yeah, because that's the way every good plan works out.
Well, this is to me, too, the other thing when I'm like, they came up with a how many $1 trillion bill, how quickly? So we already know senators and representatives basically don't read bills. No. So who the hell's writing the bills?
Right.
And then if they don't, except they can just cherry pick a couple things that they said that's the reason they voted for it or voted against it, then the type of interests that want to be in on $2 and $3 trillion debt bills. They're like, well, we'll write it. If they're going to vote, just think of 9/11 and the Patriot Act. Like,
right.
Everybody's going to vote for it. You know, the CIA's like, all right, we're going to throw this in there, we're going to throw this in there, and a bunch of people threw pork in there.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone $2 and $3. Well, so to your point of, we'll worry about the consequences later. It's like, how did you come up with, beyond the regular budget that's already whatever it is, $2.5-3 trillion a year, you just like in a matter of days and in a matter of days or a week, you just come up with another $2 to $3 trillion. I mean, shouldn't that have waited a while? Like,
and then immediately start telling people, we're going to send you even more money. We're going to do another stimulus, and we're going to pay you like $2,000 a month, and for a year, and we're going to do all this money.
Because if they would have waited, they would have had to deal with the consequences of people starting to be peeved about their original decision making because they're running out of money, and it was because of that original decision making. More people would have questioned whether the modeling was true or not, because you would have had 2 or 3 weeks to where they're actually looking at the bill and deciding if it's a good idea, which means they would have 2 or 3 weeks more of data from reality to go, hold up on your $2 and $3 trillion bill. Just open the thing up. This is ridiculous.
Right.
If they would have looked, so again, to your point of, why plan? Who cares about planning and thinking ahead when we can just?
Yeah, that's just
boy. If you make us think ahead, we won't be able to do this thing that we want to do.
And then we're just going to change it like daily and sometimes 10 times a day.
So if you had to guess on any of these 3 programs that you feel like being more the financial and accounting expert than me, what do you see happening with one or more of these in the next 2 to 3 months?
So I believe that because in July I think that the $600 kind of disappears, at least for the unemployed people. Some of the they just started giving the self-employed people, and they just got one big check. And so I did talk to someone who got her money, and she was like, it was really nice. It was enough, and I'm happy with it. And she's self-employed, so she already knew how to take the taxes out of the money that she got and pay it on her quarterly taxes, because she's smart. She's not doing that. Most people that are getting unemployment plus that money, they don't realize at the end of the year they're going to get a tax form that's going to be on their taxes, and it's going to charge them taxes on all this stuff. But I believe that I really believe that I like the changes that they did with the PPP, giving them a little bit more leeway, lowering the amounts of the payroll versus whatever. Because here's the cool part: is that when they got the loan, they did it off of the actual payroll, and so if they do bring less people back because they are opening up slower, then they're not going to have to bring in people just to stand around. And giving them 12 weeks, that gives them a little bit longer to build up the business to bring full staff back. So that makes sense. I don't know if 12 weeks is going to be long enough to do that, because when we opened up into phase 2, they said now the dining rooms are open and you can be at like 25% capacity, or you need to be able to social distance or have division. So there's cardboard cutouts every place, and shower curtains, which are ridiculous.
Plexiglass dividers.
We have just now taken a virus that attaches itself before, and we put all these extra walls and things for it to stay on, and now they're going to sanitize all of that somehow. Okay, so
they're gonna have extra services.
Yeah, they're gonna sanitize everything. But I do believe. So when they opened up and they said you can have people come in and eat, every restaurant, they called in their people, and they were like either able to open, because I went to go get pizza the other day and the dining room was not open, and someone was picking up their pizza and they said, well, we just can't find anybody to come work. We need more staff. And that's why I posted it on Facebook. And I went in, I have a jobs listing group, because I'm such a bad person in this community. I'm horrible. But I have my own group that's got over thousands of people in it that have all the job people putting jobs, trying to help people get jobs.
You know what you're doing when trying to help people get jobs?
I know.
Focusing on dollars again.
I know it. It's horrible. I'm just a bad person. But some people are like, dining room is open, and then nobody came. Dining room is closed. because I can't, like, we're going to put these people back on unemployment. If we don't have people coming in the dining room because they're too scared to eat out in public so far, then we're going to close. Well, then you've got people like me that go thinking, well, you're a restaurant, you should be open, and they're not. And you're like, but I'm not going to, okay, so then you're going to go over here. So here's my idea, and then we'll be done. My idea would have been if we could have had an organization, and I have that, but I'm honestly way too busy. I have all these people. What we should have said was, you know what? Let's do a huge promotion, and let's open up, like 20 at a time. Because we have 315 restaurants here. And I'm talking local. Like who wants to open up? 20 at a time. And you can open up like every week. We'll do like 20 on Monday and then 20 on Friday. And we'll do a huge promotion, and through the media, we're going to talk about it. We're going to say, these are the places that are open. These are the things.
What are they doing opening up 100%?
Nope, they're only 25%. They're still 25%, but they're
Everything's
still open.
Still 25 inside?
Well, this was when we first opened. I'm just saying instead of just going, just open if you want to, and no marketing and no helping these stupid people.
Those same type of radio commercials where they actually let two different people be on 30 seconds, so each of them pays less.
Right.
Like you'll even hear in some markets and in ours, where I've always thought this was about the dumbest thing in the world, that you could do this type of thing for another purpose. It's not as dumb, where they let 2 or 3 or 4 little private little car dealerships talk in the same commercial. Well, instead that becomes either a PSA, which should be free, and honestly I would be going for that,
right,
or a commercial that says here are our businesses are opening to 75% of indoor capacity today.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I was talking about, and that's what should have happened. And I don't know in other communities, so if you're listening to this and you're in different communities, this is something that you should do. But I refuse to do it in this community because I have done this before and nobody would have listened to me. They just proved to me that they do not care about who we are because there's enough airway and enough time on television because nobody's paying for commercials right now. They had enough time to come up and say, let's do a marketing plan and help you out. But no, what they did was just bought gift cards. So I'm really upset about that. But that is one of the things that when I go to them, I will tell them what they should have done, because it's not my place, because it's not my job. The people whose jobs it was to do that, they failed our community of even saying, hey, we'll give you guys some free advertising. We'll pay for it out of all this money that we have over here.
What is our bureau? We won't go there, but it's like that seems like it's right in the exact wheelhouse of like a chamber of commerce.
It would, you'd think.
Or
go to Pika or something.
Hello, we have radio station and TV station groups where someone's trying to think of what to do next with either PSA or advertising.
Totally ignored. So, there's ways that we could have opened a little bit better if somebody actually worried about marketing. And it wasn't going to be Kim this time because I've got my group of people and I'm just there to give them information. I'm not there right now to open up to Pika because that's not Kim's job. So anyway, I think that I think the people that are on unemployment are going to be sadly mistaken when they go to get a job in August. I do. I think there's not going to be jobs. The distinction is going to be, and they're not going to have money and no unemployment.
You know how you try to open up, but then you closed again because of fear of coronavirus because not enough people came around. At some point, they're going to say, you don't have the excuse anymore. Even if you're still not getting the traffic, you still don't have the excuse to put those people back on unemployment. Right.
They can't because they've already collected all their unemployment. Yeah. So if you go for it, and it was to me, telling me not to worry about people's money, but yet people not going back to work to support a small business because of money. I think that's the problem. Like, that is a problem. It's like people aren't coming back and people are like, well, I'm not going back because I make way too much money and I'm not answering my phone and I'm not doing this. And they've got all these employees trying to find employers trying to find employees because they've got the money to pay people with the PPP, but I don't know, it just really irritates me because I've been told this entire time since March that I am a horrible person for wanting to help business survive during this.
Yeah, when if any time there was a time for someone to help, let's get together. We got to really think through this because this is a tough time. Where we got to strategically think and network. This is the time.
Yeah.
Because we're not even talking, can we flourish? We're talking, we've got to find out ways to make it through this in a halfway decent position on the other side.
Right. Yep. So, you know what? I guess we'll just sit back and wait for a couple more months, and then we'll start worrying about when all the businesses close, when it's too late. It seems to be that's what the attitude is with most people, because right now they're still yelling at me because I don't wear a mask. So
it's okay. I'm right there with you. Not wearing a mask.
I know. Someone asked me the other day, they're like, how do you keep doing your podcast? Yeah, just...
Did you say, we're still doing it?
I said...
People are having a real hard time understanding it.
Exactly. No, I was like, they said, where do you do your podcast at? How do you do it? And I said, in the studio? You're in the same room? Yeah. You're using the same mic? Yeah. I was like, yeah, you've got your masks thing.
I've got my...
You got your peep popper.
Popper screen, what do you call it? Anyway, the little screen that you put in front of a mic so that your peas don't pop the mic so much.
Pop.
I wonder what the what microns this will catch.
Oh, I'm sure it's.
I bet you it's catching any particle that's less than 2 inches.
So that my mic doesn't get the coronavirus.
Right.
But yet everything that goes over it goes right in my face. I was like, no, we sit back from each other. I've got a freaking awesome mic. It's not like we're like lip to lip on the mics, really close. That would be kind of
That's some different little.
That would be awkward.
That would be some different episodes. Some kind.
Yeah, we'd have to rename that one. That would have to be on our after night, after midnight,
after dark. Chemology. And wait a second, all of our episodes are after dark. Practically have to come up with something else.
They are. You look so tired. Did you even sleep?
So here's the funny thing. Should have done this in a quick hit. Have you ever just kind of like nodded off? No, have you ever woken up because you've taken a nap and you're like, what time is it? Am I late? Okay. I just did. Have you ever done that where you just take a nap at a weird time and you just wake up in a start and you're like, am I late for work? What's going on?
Where is this?
I did this earlier tonight at 6:37, sitting at my computer. I nodded off for a second, and then I wake up and go, and for a moment I didn't know what time of day it was and what I might be late for.
And then I text.
So you're right, I am tired.
I text later. When are you going to get here? You're supposed to be here at 7. We were going to start early so I could get to bed early. It didn't happen.
That's because it's an after dark episode.
You can always tell on the second episode in one day because we just get giggly.
As if we aren't delirious at the end anyway.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I think that's enough about the PPPs and the PUAs and the FPUAs and all the little...
FPUA.
The flip-flip.
That's what I call it, the FPUA.
So anyway, so that's what it's about. Sorry that it was, this way, but two topics in 1 week during a coronavirus and a protest.
Kim, I want you to believe in yourself. You don't need to say, I'm sorry that it was, this way.
I didn't even know what to say about it. I mean, it's, people that are listening to this that they're going to be like, what the hell are they talking about? Like in 6 months from now. And they're going to be like, I was so disappointed. But did you get to talk about, you did talk about your girlfriend, Robin.
Yes.
Or boyfriend. We don't know.
We're not to that point yet. Hey, man, or whoa, man.
Oh, man. No, it's wool. It's hey, bird, or whoa, bird. Is that what they call him? A war bird? A woe bird?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Whoa, bird?
You know, whoa, man, woman.
Oh, okay. Man,
Oh,
you
wow.
were just faster than me by about 60 miles an hour on that one. I was off on the side of the road as you zoomed past on that one. Goodness gracious.
I do have to say before we go, we do have a couple new listeners out there. I was excited that I was like, you have to listen to it. They're like, okay. I'm like, no, give me your phone. And I put it in their phone. I'm like, what app do you want to look at? We're on a bunch of different things. And they had an iPhone, so I put it on Apple Podcast. And I was like, go here, go here.
Well, you know, I don't remind people, but when this comes up, I'm reminded, and sometimes I tell people, you know, if you're just at your computer, just throw it on Google. It's on,
yeah.
You know, I mean, Google does the looking for podcasts. Now, the truth of the matter probably is that you may not get credit that way. I don't know that it reports back.
Actually,
but you can listen to it that way. Does it report back from Google?
When you do Google and it shows up, it's going to go through one of the multiple things. And yes, I do know.
Okay.
So like one day, the other day, I had most people did Apple Podcast, and then all of a sudden the other day, it was one of the other ones was the highest one. So it just really depends on.
But I mean, you can just go search for it on Google, and it will come up and play on Google. It won't have to. You don't want to have to go back to the site.
It'll tell me. It tells me every time it plays.
Somehow underneath it goes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because I get all the statistics, and that's what I knew that we doubled our daily viewership, which is flippin' awesome. I mean, we're not where I want to be yet, where I'm like traveling the world. Oh my goodness. We really should videotape Tyson. He's just shy, but he was dancing. He was chair dancing.
One of the fun things is just chair dancing, yeah. That's where you move your upper body a bunch.
Yeah.
You don't have to move your legs.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for giving us more of your time. And I hope that we keep you entertained on the treadmill, on those long drives, because our podcasts normally go on a pretty long drive. Or a long walk, outside in the weather.
Go get your vitamin D.
Or listen to us while you're at work, to stick us in the background. And, I don't think we have anything that critical that you'd have to stop and listen to take notes.
Hold on. What did they say about these birds?
Exactly. So
Let me take note on that.
Exactly. Make sure you go to Chemology 411 and make sure you like our group, and then also, or join our group, but also in there, tell us about your love story with your neighborhood birds. I'm going to say one thing. So it was really nice the way that my introvert co-host looks at the geese and he goes, oh, look at that little bird. He's just an introvert. And I thought, no, he's a bully. Nobody likes him. Or they're picking on him and he's just like a little nerd bird.
Sometimes bullying makes turns someone into an introvert.
I was just thinking, is that going to be an episode of Tyson's bullying in his special shoes? Sorry.
I had falling arches.
I don't even know what episode that was in.
Oh boy.
Sorry. All right. Well, we are going to end this most professional show on a low note.
Bob.
All right. Thank you, Tyson, for making Chemology so awesome.
You bet. Have fun with your 2 weeks off. That's going to be great. I can't wait to hear about the details and the adventures.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I hopefully will come back with an episode of something. And so anyway, you guys, we'll talk to you soon. And just like me, you need to get out and take some adventures. Woohoo! We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.